Steelshod crosses the border of Karim into Tarathia at a keep called Nashim. Nashim lies directly on the border, a well-situated bastion with twin towers on two bluffs that overlook the road. Alexander can see that storming this place would be hell, a killing field all the way up to the gates. But today the gates stand open, and they receive a warm welcome from Lord Mattis Nashim and his son Benfred. Mattis is an old man that doesn't stand on ceremony. He's heard the news from the Serpentes. He's called his banners. Sir Benfred intends to ride to Nahash with half a dozen knights and 50 assorted yeomen and conscripts to join the city's defenses. They give Steelshod a friendly meal and quarters for the night. Mattis assures Alexander that his remaining men will watch over the countryside and try to lend some protection to Karim as well, as he's heard what's happened there. All in all, a refreshingly pleasant and easy encounter. They leave Nashim feeling a bit better, with Sir Benfred and his men in tow. Some days later, well into northwestern Tarathia now, and still no sign of Sfards, they come across the nation's largest trading hub in the north. Whether it's a large town or a small city, the place is called Misviyr. Like all the trading towns in Tarathia, the place is administrated by Serpentes, not lords, defended by a militia. Again, the word from Torthian and his men has spread, but no sign of Spartic invasion on this side of Nahash. For reference, because the world map is so fucking faded and shitty, here is a quick mock-up of Tarathia that I will add to the top bar next time. Details may not be 100% accurate in terms of scale and distance, but it will give you some spatial understanding, and some towns, forts, and sovereign kingdoms are named on there, but they may not come into play right now. Spirits in Misviyr are agitated. Some people are denying that whatever this business with Sfards is will have anything to do with them, but many more are scared, or angry, or excited at the prospect of joining a glorious war to defend the church and country. Yoren and Alexander spend a bit of time walking the streets with some of their more persuasive companions, speaking with crowds, trying to stress how serious the threat is, and entice more folks to join the defenses of Nahash. Since Kashar and the Serpentes army is away, Nahash will need every defender they can muster. Elena, as a priestess of Torath, speaks to crowds in the market square, and people begin to come to them. Common folk, tradesmen, laborers, they rally to defend their homes. Alexander assigns Perrin to teaching them. Perrin's probably gotten short shrift by me in this story. He's not a flashy guy, but he's eminently reliable. And with abilities in tiers such as Hold the Line, Arms Master, and Practice, 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 he is, bar none, the single best teacher and leader of common-born conscripts that Steelshod has. He can grant semi-permanent buffs, teach people new weapons quickly, and more. All my main notes are at home, so I think I'll post a few character sheets over the weekend. Maybe Perrin will be one of them. There's a notable group of volunteers in their peasant forces. The first to volunteer, in fact. A group of young orphan lads from the streets of Misviyr, barely out of adolescence. They've heard a few stories of Steelshod, and they don't just want to defend Nahash. They want to become mercenaries, join the ranks of Steelshod. Alexander has some misgivings about even allowing them to come, but the reality is Nahash will need every able body it can get. So he lets them tag along, tells them to follow Perrin's commands, and maybe, if they prove themselves, they could find a place in Steelshod. There are 5 brave young lads in the group. Toby, the oldest, maybe 14, is also the tallest and strongest. Finn is a young, reedy lad, but he's brave and cheerful. Nate is nearly Toby's age, probably the most stoic and hardened of the children. Jake is a stocky lad that's worked mostly as a water carrier and has strong, broad shoulders for a boy his age. And then there's Oliver. Oliver is a bright-eyed, optimistic youth. He works as a night soil collector. A shit shoveler, if you aren't familiar with the euphemism. He's one of the scrawnier lads, maybe 11 or 12, or a small 13. As an orphan, it's not as if he knows his birthday. Not orphaned by his parents' death, he was abandoned as a child. You see, Oliver has a clubfoot, giving him a pronounced and awkward limp, and consigning him to a cripple's life of drudgery, failure, and servitude. Like all the lads, Oliver is effectively 0th level, a garbage first-level class with no features to speak of, with 3d6 stats rolled into a pretty worthless set. There's just one thing that makes Oliver different. You see, Oliver is Yoren's 5th character, rounding his number of PCs out to match Alexander's, who has had the bonus character of Jaspar up until this time. His idea, not mine. If Oliver lives long enough to gain XP, the plan is that first he earns XP in order to hit 0 XP and become a real class of his own design. During the early phase, I also plan on giving him some stat bumps because I think his best stat is a 14, followed by a 10 or an 11, and then a bunch of garbage down to his abysmal dex. Spoiler, he lives long enough. Crippled as he may be, but Oliver will become a full-fledged member of Steelshod in his own right one day. The other lads clearly find Oliver laughable and treat him pretty awfully, especially Nate, who seems to be something of a bully, but Perrin tells them that at this point, they are all as worthless to Nahash as any club-footed cripple. And if they want to be anything but arrow fodder, they'd better shut up and listen to him. Steelshod sets out from Misviyr, their tail of troops substantially larger. The next few days of travel are tense. Perrin schools the new trainees. Fighting, marching, formations. Evan laughs at the sight, mocks them, particularly Oliver, until Alexander commands him to assist Perrin in teaching them, taking on duties as a riding instructor. Evan isn't amused by that. Luckily, Alexander isn't joking. So, each night after camp has been set, Sir Lafferty sets about teaching orphan urchin boys how to ride a horse. He teaches them, but he never stops mocking them. There are some small amusements on the road, but Alexander and Joren are waiting for the hammer to drop. Has Der Bjornsson beaten them to Nahash? Nah. They arrive at the encircled city, the great jewel of Tarathia. From miles away they can see the pillar rising into the sky, a huge, ancient structure in the center of the city. A brownstone tower, solid, featureless, unweathered by time, jutting up out of the earth and towering hundreds of feet into the air. Some say the Thalmati built it. Others say that Toroth erected it when he wiped out the Thalmati. Nobody really knows, of course. Amud Kahal, the great cathedral of Nahash, means Church of the Pillar in Temple Tarathian, and clearly draws its name from this structure. As they draw closer, the rest of the city comes into view. Nahash is a sprawling city. I'll post a map of it tomorrow. For now, suffice to say the city is a series of circles. At the core, a stone fortification rises up around the pillar, forming the inner circle. Here is the Amud Kahal and the Council Keep, where the heart of Tarathia's democratic theocracy resides. The next ring of the city is a huge, densely packed cityscape of guild halls, churches, mansions, markets, and other places of business. This, the middle circle, is surrounded by a high wall with many gates. The wall has a stone foundation and some stone bastions, but the majority of it is a triple-layered palisade made of wide, thick tree trunks, each layer filled with gravel. Stone and wood towers dot the walls, and gates open out into the various outer sections. The Serpentes also maintain a walled keep on a small hill in the middle circle, their main barracks and garrison for any troops stationed at the capital city. The outer circle is the outermost ring of the city, a sprawl of buildings and marketplaces. On the western side along the Tyre River is a vast docks and canals district, where they have carved dozens of canals off from the main river to expand the number of boats they can fit in the docks. Along the southwest, there is an impressive Castelline arched stone bridge spanning the Tyre, one of 3 such bridges in Tarathia. The outer circle has no wall, and the neighborhoods are ever expanding. But radiating out from the middle circle in lines, like spokes on a wheel, are rows of watchtowers, stone and wood fortifications that provide some measure of defensive presence. Steelshod rolls into town and finds the city surprisingly calm. Not as much unrest as they saw in Misviyr, perhaps because, due to its sheer size, word has not spread quite as deeply through the populace. Steelshod and their train of troops are quickly ushered to the Serpentes keep. They are pleased to see Torthian, though he seems less than happy. He explains that the Council of Nahash has heard his warning and proceeded to do, well, nothing. Or close to it. They have been deliberating for days on how to proceed. They sent a messenger to Brother Enoch, but the messenger has not yet returned. He thinks they're simply in denial. The prospect of a foreign army, Svards no less, enacting such a plan, traveling thousands of miles. It sounds like a fantasy. And of course, if it's real, it sounds utterly terrifying. Torthian introduces them to a brown-skinned Serpentis knight named Brother Khalid, who has been assigned command of the Nahash garrison in the absence of Kashar and most of the army. He has just a few hundred men at his command presently, but he has been working with Torthian to take stock of their defenses, and spread word amongst every private guard, former soldier, or able-bodied man in Nahash that they will soon be called to defend their home. This is unacceptable. Elena, Alexander, and Yoren agree. They leave their troops at the Serpentes keep and head for the inner circle to speak to the council directly, only to be told that they must wait until the council has concluded its current meeting. Now that they're off the road, Perrin sets to drilling the recruits all day long. As aspiring Steelshod recruits, the Misviyr boys get a great deal of attention. They aren't exactly outstanding, but they've got a lot of heart, and Oliver has double the others. He gives every drill his all, even when he stumbles and falls, as he often does. Felix and Kara teach them a few basics of shooting a bow. At Kara's insistence, of course, as Felix is more inclined to agree with Evan and just laugh at the pitiful lowborn. Zelda, on the other hand, loves the kids, and happily tries to show them how to use an axe. She's not exactly eloquent or logical in her explanations, though, and Perrin quietly redirects her to other tasks. Meanwhile, Elena, Alexander, and Yoren are quietly conferring while they wait. Elena tells them what she knows about the individual counselors, their attitudes, styles, and reputations. Finally, they tire of being given the runaround. They hold their copy of the letter from Kashar in front of them like a shield, and persuade, cajole, and intimidate their way past the guards, finally bursting into the council's chamber. The 9 counselors turn to face them, and they step into the lion's den to plead their case. Without the council's cooperation, defending Nahash is going to be a hell of a lot harder. Thank you for tuning in to Steelshod, a series by Mostly Rights, narrated by Tailforge. You can find every chapter in text format, as well as character sheets, setting information, maps, and rule documents on the Steelshod tabletop system in the link below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can pop down to the description and use the Patreon link for recurring donations, the paypal.me link for one-time donations, the Teespring link for shirts with the incredibly cool background art by Nobody, or use the DriveThruRPG affiliate link the next time you're looking to try a new system. If you'd like to support the author, you can find Steelshod merch on the MostlyRights.com store, or donate to the Mostly Rights Patreon, which are both linked on reddit.com/r/mostlyrights down below.